Welcome everybody. I hope you have a nice afternoon, a nice evening. I couldn't think about sharing a small share of Burgundy with you without make you seeing a bit of vineyard. Luckily, my working houses is very close to a clos because we produce most of our wines in a clos, which is a vineyard which has got a wall all around it, and it's a monopoly, it's a private. So today it's easy for me to give you a bit of sunshine of Burgundy and showing you a small share of what we do. To start with, I'm going to talk about the family, the most important thing for us, because I've been lucky enough to join the family 3 years ago. And what you have to look at is most of Burgundy is already and still run by families now, Beaujolais as well and Chablis. The story of the family here starts from 1947, when the grandfather bought this plot and also bought many plots along 20 years of time, which means that now we are owner, grower, producer on 38.5 hectares and 45 different appellations. Meaning for you, you have to imagine it's a long spread on about 50 kilometers long, wide, with many small plots. And sometimes we vinify just 600 bottles, sorry. Sometimes we vinify 10,000. But that's what makes Burgundy so unique. We start at Puligny-Montrachet, the south of Beaune, and we go up to Gevrey-Chambertin, the south of Dijon. So it's a wide spread with very small plots all along the way. That's our producer, the family, the team who's working with us is managing all year through to try to get one single wine out of them. The second thing is we are not vinifying different varietals. Here we vinify just Pinot Noir in red and Chardonnay in white. And we will taste together those two wines in a few moments. But you have to imagine out of one single varietal, Pinot Noir, the winemaker is trying to do one wine which is singleized by the ground where it is coming from. So for example, Gevrey-Chambertin is Côte de Nuit. It should be quite elegant, fruity, well-driven, and the soil should talk into the wine. And when you go down south, Côte de Nuit, then you go into Corton area, and you go then to Pommard, Meursault. You should have a different taste every single one you have on your palate. And that's what makes Burgundy so amazing. It's not just trying to do a single varietal wine, but a wine who's speaking from the soil who's made of. So out of that, the family has spread and bought many plots over the last 40 years. And now they are all vinified here, where I'm now, at the Clos des Langres. Under my feet, you've got the Chai with all the barriques, the fûts, where most of wines are aging. I think I had a question just before we start, asking how was done the ranking on Grand Cru, Premier Cru, villages and regional Burgundy wines. I think historically it comes out of the fact that most of the Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune, this area where we are now, has been managed by the monks. And the monks, over a very, very long period of time, you have to imagine we found some vineyard, okay, starting from the Roman, but the monks started on the 10th century to manage this vineyard in Burgundy. And from time to time, they saw that basically the vineyard on some plots were much better than on others. And they decided to singleize those plots and take them away from the rest of the crop. And with the time being, this has just gone into being singleized as Grand Cru, and then Premier Cru, and then villages and regional. Just to finish with that, if I can make things simple for you, it's not always true, but Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune, basically it's a slope oriented east to west. And if you are on the flat part of the slope, usually it's regional wines. When it starts to get a bit higher in the slope, it can be end of regional and villages. Higher, it gets villages to premier cru, and sometimes in the middle, it's grand cru, and on top, premier cru. Okay, so it's an easy way to remember when you go along the coast that you can to understand the way Burgundy wines are ranked. Most of this ranking now is true, and you will not move any further, because you have to imagine in Burgundy, especially in our area, we share. You don't have exclusivity on one climat. You have to share it with other producers. And this sharing means, of course, soil is speaking. Of course, the way you are managing your grapes is speaking, but also the way the winemaker is making some choices at key points to produce a wine. And that means, on some example, you can have a winemaker from two different areas within the same climat, within the same appellation, and at the end, having two styles different due to oak aging, longer or shorter, due to management of the grape, harvesting early or late. So very much in Burgundy, or in our part, the kings are the winemakers. In many appellations where I worked before, sales rep are kings. It's not the case in Burgundy. They are vinifying so many plots with different personality and trying to keep them in the bottle to have something unique for you, that basically you have to imagine how hard this work is to understand really much. So I know it's a tough period for everybody. I would love to see you in Burgundy soon to touch this reality. Now I'm going to try to share it with you within the bottle. So within the selection of all the wines that Alpha has selected for you, we're going to start with, Bourgogne Côtes, 17 vintage. What I have to say about this white wine is something a bit special. Haute Côte means you are the highest part of the côte, of the slope. Before the phylloxera, which was a very big disease who attacked worldwide, most of the côte was with grapevine, especially on the top, because of the sunshine and exposure. But on the bottom, you have to, if you look behind me, you can see that the layers of vineyard are very close by, in competition to each other, to help Pinot Noir and Chardonnay to compete with the soil and trying to extract the best quality into the grape. In Haute Côte de Beaune, basically, you divide that by 2, and you don't harvest low vines, you harvest high vines. So it's for the guys who are in the vineyard, it's a pleasure, because it's just so easy to manage. It's all the time at the right level to cut, to take the leaves off, to do the job. Here you have to bend over all the time. It's a nightmare. I promise I will not do that for the rest of my life. But in Haute Côte, it's much higher, so it's easy to handle. And it also helps the grapes to take as much sunshine as possible. So let's have a look at this vintage 17. 17 was a good vintage, not a big one in terms of volume, but for us who were in biodynamic, we've suffered a lot. But biodynamic growing and farming, you have to imagine, we managed all these 45 plots, which are not close by to the winery. They're all wide in terms of distance, so you have to be quick in terms of responding to disease and fighting against them. Now, we've suffered. I think most of my colleagues talked to that about, we suffered a lot within the 5-10 last years, and the worst vintage was 16. 16, we lost about 85% of all our production due to late frost, late of April, which basically technically burnt the buds. And once this burning was done, we had a very, very low yield, about between 15 and 20% on the normal yield we have on a biodynamic and bio estate. 17 were back to normal, I would say. It was an easy to vinify vintage. They steamed the grape, we crushed them, we had some very nice juices, put them on lees for a few weeks, and then into stainless steel. We filtered and we finished. We did a fining in oak, but very light. The idea was just to put a touch of oak in the bottle, but nothing much. And what we found out is in March, the wines were ready. This was just amazing. They were round, soft, creamy. They were tight, not this green. Sometimes you can have some greenage, you can have some tension. Here we felt that the wines were very much ready to drink. And that's what we did. We said, okay, we don't need to overpower the wines. We keep them as they are. Keep them, it's a vintage. We don't want to mask things here. We want to keep the personality of the soil and also of a vintage. So we bottle them like that. And we know that it's a wine which is going to be easy to drink now in 2020, 2021. So let's have a bit of nose in it. Here, the first aromas I can pick up are very much on the apricot side, with very mature apricot, like jammy kind of flavors. And on top of that, a nutty small fining, basically, like you've got some nuts, fresh nuts, adding up on the top of that. A bit of honey and flowery kind of flavors. Second effect, this wine, because he hasn't got any oak or is he fining in oak for a long period of time, he's kept his direction. He's very straightforward. Acidity is there. Acidity is not bad. Acidity is something who's going across fat, who's going to cut into a dish or when you're eating something, and it will make things, you know, fresh. 17, 18 vintage, 19 vintage have been warm vintage globally, and we've got a warm up, a global warming who's affecting us. And I think one of the capacity is now to keep freshness in a wine. Chardonnay can ripe very well, but if it gets too creamy, too alcoholic, sometimes it's a bit heavy to drink. Here, the idea is keeping this freshness through acidity, which make you salivate, having a bit of saltiness in your mouth, and having the pleasure to say, "Ooh, I want a second glass." And I think this is the challenge for us, depending on the across all the appellation we look at, about 11 different white wines, Meursault, Puligny, here a Burgundy Chardonnay, Hautes Côtes. Across all of that, all the idea is keeping freshness, keeping acidity to make this wine going higher up rather than being bulky, being heavy on your mouth. So that's what you will get in this glass if you are happy in the future to buy one of those bottles. But for me, it will be very much an aperitif wines or something to share with a fish dish, grilled fish, straightforward, nothing, just a bit of salt and pepper. But you will have the fat of the fish, which will be cut into by this freshness, by this acidity. Next one, we are very, very close by to the plot of this Burgundy Côte d'Or Pinot Noir. maybe I'll spend just 5 minutes about this Burgundy Côte d'Or. Côte d'Or is a new appellation. It's born last year. The idea was to share Burgundy in 4 different parts. You have the part from Chablis, where my friend talked to about a few minutes ago. You've got the Macon part, and here you've got the part of Côte de Nuit, and the Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune, sorry. So now is born this Bourgogne Côtes d'Or, Pinot Noir. Côte d'Or means we certify that the grapes are coming from Côte de Beaune or Côte de Nuit area only. You've got the name of the plots, Les Chagniots. So Les Chagniots is just down the road. Here the plot is called the Clos des Langres. You just go right down the road, opposite the road, and you are in Les Chagniots. Les Chagniots is an old term for stony in the past. Here you've got a different vintage, 18, completely different from 17. 18 was, I think, for the winemaker, the most stunning vintage. Is never vinified and probably will never vinified in his life. Ripeness was amazing. We had a lot of volume, it's true, but basically both things were reached in high level. Fruit, aromatic, acidity was kept, and the yield was quite high. And basically that's made wines with a lot of ripeness, lots of fruitiness in your mouth, but also a freshness which has been kept through the process of vinification. So here in Nous, you've got mostly sherry berries, very straightforward. A small note of prunes, which is linked with maturity. And then you don't have much oak because in the same idea of the previous wine we tasted together, this wine has one aim, keeping something fruity, very easy to drink. And oak, we used old barrel for the fermentations, after the fermentation, sorry, to keep the wines. So these old barrels just gonna help the wines blend together, mature, but they will not bring back some oak taste into the wines, meaning that they will be easy to drink, young. 18 is a young vintage, but because of this maturity and very refined fruits, it's a ready to drink wine now. Mouth, you are with some raspberry, strawberry, fine tannins, just make your the backbone of this wine on your tongue. Light tannins that you can feel, they are there. So for me, it looks like a very good wine to either drink by the glass or to put with some meat. But it's not a complex wine. It's a pleasure wine as a Burgundy, very, very straightforward. I think that's it for me. Is there anything more you would like to find out about us, or is there any question? Feel free to ask. With you for a while.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you, all 3 of you, taking the Saturday morning in France to share with us the story about your different wines in Burgundy, and each one is so unique and made with so much passion. And, you know, it's you have to really savor and drink it to be able to know, to see the expression of the different wines, from La Manufacture to Domaine Ardouille and also to Domaine Chermet. I think there was only just one question that I saw. There was one participant who was asking, what do you think of the vintage 2020? Because in Singapore, so many things are being affected. We are wondering at the vineyards there, how is your vintage going to be, you think, in this year?
Well, if we talk about people, yes, we've been affected by this enormous disease, but most of our team was working in the vineyards. has been healthy all the time, and the work has been done, which is great because basically the vineyard is quite early. We expect to start, if things keep going like it is. We had some rainy days yesterday. A bit of raining is expecting in few minutes here. So if things are going as they are for the moment, yes, we could have some a good vintage at the end of this 2020. But there is still a lot of work to do, and as Benjamin has said, it's going to be a tough time to have to wait these 6 weeks, 7 weeks to go. We expect to start the harvest on the earliest day, I would say 20th, 25th, 5th of August, which is very, very early for Burgundy, Côte de Beaune, and Côte de Nuit. But as well, we've got some good impression for the moment. Not a lot of disease on the grapes. Very healthy. Nice amount on each rootstock, as Benjamin has just talked about. And finger crossed for everybody. I hope that in 6 weeks we can all say we have a very good vintage to come through. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.